Hey everyone, I'm going to give people about a couple of minutes to hop on to this live stream. Um, we'll be starting our poetry reading in a bit. So please excuse me, I actually got really sick this week. My whole family did. So my voice is cracking and hopefully I can get through reading these poems peacefully. It won't be as melodic as a typical poetry reading, but that's the beauty of virtual events, right? I'm literally in my pajamas, exhausted and getting ready to read some poetry. So yeah, I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to hop on. I know there's always technological difficulties and delays, and then I'll get started and introduce myself and share some poetry. Please feel free to start hopping into the comments section, sharing your questions. We'll have a Q&A session following the reading, and so I'll get to that hopefully once I see the questions pop in. Let me see. I'm trying to share it from my phone to another account so that there's more visibility. We're just technologically everywhere. There we go. I hope everyone is enjoying their new year and staying safe. This illness was unexpected. Sometimes, even when you do everything correctly, you still get sick. But luckily, I don't know what the test results are yet, but hopefully it's not COVID. But if it is, I am vaccinated, boosted, and staying at home. So hopefully it'll be cool. Okay. I'm going to try and access the comments and questions from my phone because they're not popping up here. Let's see. Great. All right. So, thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm really honored and excited to finally be doing this. I actually was introduced to the Poets in Pajamas reading series back in 2019. A friend of mine suggested it to me, and I kept delaying and bookmarking because 2019 was just definitely not a year for me to explore a lot of opportunities. It was the year that my father was diagnosed with brain cancer, and then he passed away 5 months later. So I kept tabling a lot of poetry things and extracurricular activities. But then in 2020, she sent me the link again, and I was like, all right, we're gonna apply for this. And I'm really, really, really excited that it finally worked out. And I actually, if you follow me on Instagram, you followed my chronicle of series to find perfect pajamas for this because I did not have matching pajamas, and I was like, I want to buy something cute, comfortable, cozy, and affordable. And it just led to this whole adventure of finding the most outrageously priced fancy pajamas. And then I ended up getting sick, and the pajamas I bought for this occasion, I just did not have the energy to change into. These are literally the pajamas that I went to sleep in last night, and I was like, it's just gonna have to do because it is what it is. So, let me introduce myself for those who don't know. My name is Dania Ayah Alkhouli. I'm a Syrian poet, writer, author, recent cat mom. I was a cat auntie for 2 cats, and then in October I adopted my own little girl. She's right here. I'm sure she'll pop up every few seconds. Let's see what else about me. I have authored 3 poetry books. The latest is Contortionist Tongue from Moontide Press, and I've linked their website on my bio here in the comments or in the profile section if you're interested in buying a copy. But today I'm actually going to be reading poetry from an upcoming manuscript that I finished writing last year. It was actually a finalist in the Not a Cult Stories Award series, and I was really, really honored to discover that. But when it was not one of the winners, I took it back and I began working on it and editing again. And I came across a lot of things that I wanted to update and change and include. So I always look at rejections as a blessing, because it's like an educational opportunity to dig into something that you thought was done, but then you discover is not really done. If I crack my voice, just please bear with me. I have my water, my coffee, my Dayquil, all here set up and waiting for me. So the book itself that I'm going to be reading from today, it's not out yet, but it covers the subject of the loss of body autonomy in two different ways. And so the first half of the book talks about the loss of body autonomy due to illness, which is something that we cannot control. And a lot of times people experience illnesses that take away our capabilities in unexpected mechanisms, and how we learn to process that, how our loved ones deal with it, and how we reconcile this idea that we no longer can control this body that for the longest time we may have been able to control. And the second half of the book talks about loss of body autonomy due to sexual assault, which is another thing that is out of our hands that happens, and it leaves us trying to rediscover our bodies, our purposes, and our independence all over again. And so the poems I'll be reading are from there. I have a couple from the first half and a couple from the second half that I will dig into, and I think we'll go ahead and get started on that. We have, I believe everybody is on board, so let me get that opened up. I'm reminding myself to breathe for nerves, A, and the lack of oxygen, B. All right, here we go. So I'll give a little bit of context with each poem. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory based off the title. So this first one is called On the Night Before His Surgery. So this section of the book that talks about loss of body autonomy from illness is relevant to my dad's experience. He was literally fine one day, and the next day he went in and got a scan and they found the brain tumor, and it just kind of became a trickling effect of so many different things. And so this is a set of poetry inspired by that experience. On the night before his surgery, my dad came home wearing a pair of medium wash jeans instead of the suits I grew accustomed to. He brought oval yellow mangoes and wet cucumbers in a reusable bag. My mom burned the fillet for the first time. Everyone became vegetarian at dinner. He said he was too nauseous to eat, but finished his soup and 2 servings of Syrian ushta. My mom asked me how I didn't notice the obvious smell of burning meat. I spilled the bowl of cucumber mint yogurt on the kitchen floor, cried as I cleaned it up. There was enough left for one person. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of learning. Like, I am far closer with my brother 8 years younger, because he's not ashamed to cry, than I am with my brother 2 years younger. Like, apparently, I love the smell of death so much, I didn't even notice the meat burning. So this next one is called Dream State, and it was actually inspired by a dream I had while my dad was hospitalized. I'm a dream person, so I am both a dreamer, and I also believe that dreams tell us messages that sometimes we have within us that we haven't been able to untangle or unfold. Sometimes I have visions in my dreams that come true the next day, but I don't consider myself psychic, but it's happened on more than one occasion where I will literally have a dream and the next day it will actually happen. But while my dad was in the hospital, I had a lot of dreams about him. He was no longer able to communicate, so sometimes I felt like these dreams were just my inner conscious telling me what he's trying to say, what he's thinking. And so in this dream, it was really random, but he literally asked me to bring him a cup of sugar and to pour it inside flowers. And I tried to analyze what that meant. Like what was so sweet about that? What is the meaning behind my dad telling me to pour sugar inside flowers? And so that inspired this poem called Dream State. My father's hands are dipped in bronzed sun, his legs a bony contrast like mine. When they undress him, I recognize myself in his pale tinge. He tells me we should pour sugar in bulbs, sweetens the flowers for next season's bloom, a bloom I will not birth. So I phantom pour white crystals into violet buds, mouths open, petals wide. My father is an octopus, plastic tentacles unfurling from broken flesh, compensating for appendages retired too soon. I swim in those tubes, determined to finally find a place inside him. A silver snake cursives its way on the left of his skull, staples within its belly 30 secrets we will never be able to know. Oceans are nothing more than sandy vessels carrying water, heavy on their backs. My father and I are two seas with one continent over our shoulders, both swimming so diligently in different directions. This next one is called On the Night After My Father's Stroke, so very self-explanatory title. On the night after my father's stroke, my little brother, the one 2 years younger, sobs heavily in our other's arms. The Wi-Fi stops working entirely, but after I Google translate stroke to Arabic, Sekt el-Dimaghiye, the silence of the brain. A home-cooked Ramadan iftar brings my father's soul to the table. Kibbeh pressed neatly into a tin pan, stuffed eggplants floating at the surface of a Red Sea. In the background, Abdul Halim Hafiz cries Sawah, and we all feel like tourists at home, haunted by the absence and the echoes of almost hearing Dad sing along to the tune of our silverware orchestra, like the good old days. There is a lot more crying, even more anxiety about the future. I eat the leftover knafe in my father's chair, the one he thought was catered because it was too good. I baked it, thinking I had at least 18 more months to make him second helpings. Okay, so this next set of poems I'm going to be reading are from the second half of the book, which talk about the loss of body autonomy due to sexual assault. So something I want to say is, when I put together this book, I wanted to create something that did not need to come with repetitive trigger warnings or content warnings. I wanted to be able to write about dark, heavy, realistic subjects that did not cross the line but could still get the message across. And so I feel really proud of this manuscript and being able to delve into things that are so personal for me, that were my own experiences, that I could put on paper and educate with these messages, but still not go into graphic or gory details. So these next set of poems talk about that, but I don't feel that they cross any lines or require any content trigger warnings. I have my own mixed feelings about the content and trigger warnings, but that's for another conversation. So this next poem is called To Make Art of Evidence. Death by ice is the perfect crime. Swallowing it, to be specific. An icicle slipping past a tongue in between sips, slitting a throat from the inside out, shrinking in its demise of another, all the way until it melts, invisible in its becoming one with a body already 3/4 water. And woman learns Dehydration is a better death than a boy building a curriculum on joy to steal her laugh. Teaching that endings are best by the water. Branding her skin in faint swirls. Finger-painted seashells to make art of evidence. If you look closely, you can almost see her, marked right under the curve of her left ankle bone. Can see her untangle the braids of her DNA, fingers peeling a double helix to see what lonely looks like. It looks like one wave passing over 2 time zones, once in its ebb, the other in its flow. Like graves being cheaper to buy when you're alive. It was never the death that she feared, rather the dying, and the latter is often a boy's laughter. Excuse me. It actually really hurts to talk. I did not realize that because I haven't been talking for like 2 days at home. Okay, so this next one, I debated whether I would perform this one or not, just because I feel like it's darker than the rest of the book. I always start my sets by giving people a disclaimer that if you came for like really happy, cheery poetry, I'm definitely not the artist for you. My poetry is always heavy, dark, intense, because for me as a kid, I started writing when I was 10 and I started poetry when I was 13. And this was the only place where I could let it all out without holding back, because in life we hold back things like we're respectful, we're kind, we're modest, all of these things that are necessary for social etiquette, but there always needs to be a place where we can just kind of vent, whether it's with a therapist or a diary or a poetry. But I have a rule, I never publish, perform, or share a poem about something that I haven't finished grieving, because then I'm not producing something conducive for public consumption and health. And so, yeah, I did put this piece together. It took a lot of editing, but as I was putting together the set, I was like, I think it's ready. I think it's worth sharing. So this one is called M is for Maskoon, and it starts with an epigraph that defines the Arabic word maskoon. M is for maskoon. Adverb, from the Arabic root word sakan, or an abode of found tranquility, translates to occupied house. Colloquially, however, it's come to be known as a house possessed by a spirit. It's 1:23 a.m., and I undress another haunted house before the mirror. Blushing peach fields spilling from the midnight denim of the night before. When your black eyes opened up this house, appraised my flesh and found creaking foundations you can't tiptoe around without getting caught. And what man wants a woman like that? So instead, those ashy hands dug a grave beneath my chest. That sharp tongue slowly slit the epitaph across a throat already choked with shattered grief. You clawed your way between my thighs and left behind the dirt of woman before me, stuck underneath your fingernails. Now traces of a woman whose name you can't remember live inside me. Flakes of white girl merging inside this body everyone still keeps trying to paint white. A sisterhood now brews within me. Footsteps pulsating at the greens of my veins. Every woman you lost behind becomes found in me. So I tell myself, I am sacred now, a home of scars, a house haunted. I have 2 more poems and then we'll move into the Q&A. This one is called A Land of Contradictions. I was born by an ocean and never learned to swim. Instead, carved fish into my shoulder blades with a stiletto heel, placed bets on the navy sky where palms tilt west in nostalgia for the sun, left a man drowning in his desert home, though he should have known it was better to swim after I told him my favorite flower is the cactus. Like father, like daughter after all. Our love is a defense, a skin of thorns we don't surrender, and you either love a cactus as is, or you leave it independent. I tried to apologize, but my mouth ran dry. Sorries are meant for mistakes, and I still can't find mine. I did not build a mirage of lies, a water well in barren land, a woman never there. I am both woman and here, a desert Pisces birthed from migrant wombs, always having to choose between sky or sea, home or home. All right, last poem. This one is called Vantage Point, and I feel like it kind of culminates both themes of the book in one poem. In the insurance office, I hear the words Syria and Palestine drop, sticky in the air, from a woman's mouth. She looks like me, as in looks white passing enough to be Syrian. To be the woman who receives the same compliments I learned to throw away, about my complexion being privilege I waste, about this exotic body I misuse in an America. As in, she looks tired. Behind me walks in Mustafa, a brown man with my brother's name, so he becomes mine, the same way every man and no man becomes my father since his passing, as white, as dead. Who am I? Do you feel your ears burning? An agent asks. We fawn over your beauty, your femininity, and sharp shoes every time you come in. I start seeing how much I do and don't see of me. Mustafa peers at me from the corner of his eye, and I cannot tell if he sees me, as a brown man sees one of his own, or as a man who sees a woman not his own, and all the while, the white man in the other chair keeps his eyes on my legs. All right. Whew. I managed to get through without completely losing my voice. Okay, so I'm going to find a way to view these comments. Here we go. I'm doing it through my phone because the toggle button here stopped working, so I cannot see your comments on my desktop, but we're literally living in a technological world. Okay, so adorable cat group piece. Okay, I should write poems about cats, considering everything on my Instagram is literally about cats or coffee or feminism, just like my 3 favorite subjects. Yes. So the first question is, how has the pandemic and its strictures changed the way you work, read, and make sense of your place in the writing community? Pandemic has changed a lot. Honestly, in the very beginning, I felt like it was not my element to do things virtually, and so I took a break from performing or even attending a lot of poetry things virtually because it just didn't feel the same. It felt awkward. In general, when you're performing, you hear feedback from the audience and it just kind of gives you comfort, and suddenly everything's muted. So it's very weird. But then over time, I just kind of got used to it, and I figured this is a blessing also because we got to connect with so many people globally that we would have never met or connected with had we just been in person. With regards to how it affected my writing, I honestly took 2020 as a hiatus for me. I think I've just been working on poetry nonstop that I never gave myself the opportunity to step back, reflect on my writing, reflect on myself, reflect on what I was writing about. So I took a break, and then last year I came back to it and I felt more energized to get back into writing on a more cleansed and holistic level than I had before. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positive things that came out of that. This included, like I was thinking about that this morning, and I'm just like, I feel so awful. I feel really sick. I don't want to get out of my pajamas, and I'm literally able to do a full poetry reading in my pajamas from my own home and not have to cancel on a gig. So there's a lot of great things that came out of this. All right. What am I reading right now? So if you missed the beginning of it, I read poems from an upcoming book that I have planned to submit. It was a finalist last year in the Nautical Stories Award, and it covers the subject of the loss of body autonomy in two ways, from illness and from sexual assault. So the first half is about illness, and it's about my experience of witnessing my father go from, this incredible, strong, healthy man, and then overnight there's a brain tumor, and then there's post-surgical complications that leads to a stroke. And so for the next 4.5 months, I'm witnessing my father in a new light and just seeing the loss of body autonomy. And the second half is just experiencing sexual assault, what it does to you, how you reintroduce yourself to your body, and you make peace with everything you've gone through to rediscover yourself. And so they overlapped in time and in concept, and so it just kind of flowed really well with the book and the poetry, and it was a very cathartic experience to be able to put them into words, process them, and grow from them. All right. So what books am I reading right now? I have spent a lot of time reading nonfiction and poetry. So from 2020 on, I was like, I'm going to read fiction. I just finished reading two rom-coms written by Muslim women authors, and they were incredible. I highly recommend The Marriage Clock, and the other one is called Aisha at Last. I could not put them down, so I just kind of felt I loved reading these rom-coms, especially ones written by Muslim women, and I felt like if I had read that in high school and middle school, my life would have been completely different. So right now I'm letting myself indulge in fiction because I feel like we're around too much nonfiction, and sometimes we just need to give ourselves a break. So that's what I am reading. All right, I think those are all the questions that I see here. I will definitely hop in and answer any in the comments that I missed. I'm going to just say farewell and thank you to all who joined, just because I can feel my throat calling me to go get some more Dayquil and cough drops, but I really enjoyed being here. I actually feel even lighter now having shared these poems out loud, because I've actually never performed a collection of poems from this manuscript before because it's still in the submission phases. So send it your blessings, prayers, and well wishes as I start submitting it out this year, and hopefully it gets published, because I do believe in this book and I want it out there. And yeah, follow me on Instagram. We can keep in touch. I have all the information in the profile section. And thank you again, Poets in Pajamas, for inviting me to do this. I had a blast, and so did my pajamas. So, bye. Thank you all so much.